Welcome to I Feel Fat Today. I'm your host, Kelly Taylor. Thank you so much for joining. We are going to get right into it. I have an article from the New York Times that I would like to read. It's a little lengthy, so I want to get right into it, and then we're going to get into this week's guests. Okay, so this week on the podcast, I have an article here from the New York Times, and it's from 2022. And I thought it was really interesting, and I'm going to try to cut it down if I can. But even though it's long, I think it's really good and very fitting for this podcast. So strap in. Okay. Kicking us off from the New York Times by Kate Cyber. You don't look anorexic. New research shows that our assumptions about eating disorders are often wrong and that many larger-bodied people are starving themselves. Sharon Maxwell spent most of her life trying to make herself small. Her family puts her on her first diet when she was 10. Early on Saturday mornings, she and her mother would drive through the empty suburban streets of Hammond, Indiana, to attend Weight Watchers meetings. Maxwell did her best at that age to track her meals and log her points, but the scale wasn't going down fast enough. So she decided to barely eat anything on Fridays and take laxatives as she found in the medicine cabinet. Food had long been a fraught subject in Maxwell's household. Her parents were also bigger-bodied and dieted frequently. They belonged to a fundamentalist Baptist megachurch where gluttony was seen as a sin. To eat at home was to navigate a labyrinth of rules and restrictions. Maxwell watched one time as her mother lost 74 pounds in 6 months by consuming a little more than carrot juice. Her skin temporarily turned orange. Sometimes her father, seized with new diet ideas, abruptly ransacked shelves in the kitchen, sweeping newly forbidden foods into the trash. Maxwell was constantly worried about eating too much, so she started to eat alone and in secret. She took to chewing morsels and spitting them out. She hid food behind books, in her pockets, under mattresses, and between clothes folded neatly in drawers. Though through Maxwell's teenage years and early 20s, eating became even more stressful. Her thoughts constantly orbited around food, what she was eating or not eating, the calories she was burning or not burning, the size of her body, and especially what people thought of it. Her appearance was often a topic of public interest, and when she went grocery shopping for her family, other customers commented on the items in her cart. Other shoppers offered unsolicited advice about diets. Strangers congratulated her when her cart was filled with vegetables. As she grew older, people at the gym clapped and cheered for her when she worked out. While eating in public, other diners offered feedback and still do to this day. Her choices, a few even asking if she wanted to join their gym. Sometimes people told her she was brave for wearing shorts, while others said she should cover up. She was always aware, whether she wanted to be or not, of how others viewed her body. Maxwell tried just about every diet she could find. Juice cleanses, Atkins, Slim Fast, South Beach, Mediterranean, Whole30, and Ezekiel, a regimen based on biblical references. She tried being a vegetarian and a vegan and paleo. She tried consuming less than 500 calories a day and taking HCG, a fertility hormone rumored to suppress appetite, but flagged by the FDA as risky and unproven for weight loss. During periods of religious fasting at her church, she would take the practice to an extreme, consuming nothing but water for days, and on one occasion, 2 weeks. I passed out a few times, but I did it, she said. Sometimes she exercised more than 3 hours a day in high-intensity interval training sessions and kickboxing classes. Eventually, she started vomiting up her food. Every day, Maxwell stepped on the scale and internalized the number as a reflection of her self-worth. Often, the number on the scale went down, but if she let up on her rigid food rules, even barely, the number shot back up like a coiled spring. I just cycled through that, she says, but it became harder and harder each time to get the weight off. During the many years of dieting and deprivation, Maxwell experienced mysterious health problems. For a decade, starting when she was 16, she almost never had her period. She was always cold. She often had dizzy spells and occasionally passed out in class. When she was in college, she fainted 3 times in one day and was taken to the emergency room. For an appointment with an endocrinologist one year, Maxwell took a purse full of small plastic bags. Each one contained a day's worth of hair clumps that accumulated in her brush or had fallen in the shower drain. Her head was pocked with bald spots. The doctor was pleased with her weight loss and, to her memory, didn't seem too concerned with her other symptoms. Anything that makes the scale go down, Maxwell says. It was given a pat on the back. Pause. And that is something major that I don't think people, or like, I don't think society realizes when they talk about fat bodies. I think that what I've seen just in the media that I consume and the conversations I hear around me, I think that a lot of people see the body positive or body neutrality movement as this thing of like, oh, they're just trying to convince us that fat people are hot. And it's like, you're missing the point. All fat people want is for like their health to be taken seriously and for them to not be demonized. Like in this article, she is talking about how she didn't have her period, you know, her hair was falling out, and yet the doctor was like, you are doing so well, you're dropping weight. Okay, resuming. 4 years ago, at the age of 25, Maxwell walked into her primary care doctor's office. She was there for an annual physical, and she was prepared to be told to lose weight, as she had almost always been instructed. But this time, the doctor, an osteopath, started asking some unusual questions. Maxwell's blood work showed abnormally low iron and electrolyte levels. The doctor asked Maxwell what she was eating and what she was doing in relationship to food. Was she starving herself? Was she vomiting on purpose? Maxwell was surprised by this line of questioning. These are things I had hidden my whole life from my family, my friends, doctors, she says. Side note, those are things that are easy to hide because guess what? No one asked. Okay, resuming. The osteopath told her she thought Maxwell had an eating disorder and suggested arranging treatment right away. Maxwell would later be diagnosed with atypical anorexia nervosa, an increasingly common yet little-known eating disorder that shares all the same symptoms as anorexia nervosa, except for extreme thinness. Just as many people, and possibly more, suffer from atypical anorexia. There you have it. Anorexia without the extreme thinness. As if life can't get hard enough. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, the extreme thinness aspect of anorexia is debilitating. Okay. At the physical, Maxwell stared at her doctor in disbelief. She always thought that eating disorders were for skinny people. I told her, no, I have a self-control problem. For centuries, the eating disorder would become known as anorexia nervosa, mystified the medical community, which struggled to understand or even define an illness that caused people to deliberately deprive themselves of food. As cases rose over the course of the 19th and 20th century, anorexia was considered a purely psychological disorder akin to hysteria. Sir William Whitney Gull, an English physician who coined the term anorexia nervosa in the late 1800s, called it a preservation of the ego. In 1919, after an autopsy revealed an atrophied pituitary gland, anorexia was thought to be an endocrinological disease. The theory was later debunked in the mid-20th century. Psychoanalytic explanations arose, pointing to sexual and developmental dysfunction and later unhealthy family dynamics. More recently, the medical field has come to believe that anorexia can be the product of a constellation of psychological, social, genetic, neurological, and biological factors. Since anorexia nervosa became the first eating-related disorder listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders in 1952, its criteria has shifted as well. Initially, anorexia had no weight criteria and was classified as a psychological disorder. In a 1972 paper, a team led by the prominent psychiatrist John Finger suggested using a weight loss of at least 25% as a standard for research purposes. And in 1918, the DSM introduced that figure in its definition, along with a criterion that patients weigh well below normal, quote unquote, for their age and height, although normal was not defined. Doctors who relied on that number soon found that patients who had lost at least 25% of their body weight were already severely sick. So in 1987, the diagnosis was revised to include those who weighed less than 85% than their normal body weight. Again, normal in quotations. What qualified as normal was left to physicians to decide. In the 2013 DSM, the criteria shifted again, categorizing those who suffer from anorexia as having a significantly low weight, a description that would also appear in the 2022 edition. In the 2013 edition, a new diagnosis appeared: atypical anorexia nervosa. After healthcare providers noticed more patients showing up for treatment with all the symptoms of anorexia nervosa except one, a significantly low weight. Those with atypical anorexia, doctors observed, suffered the same mental and physical symptoms as people with anorexia nervosa, even life-threatening heart issues and electrolyte imbalances. They restrict calories intensively, obsess over food, eating, and body image, and view their weight as inextricably linked to their value. They often skip meals, eat in secret, adhere to intricate rules about what foods they allow themselves to consume, and create unusual habits like chewing and spitting out food. Others exercise to the point of exhaustion, abuse laxatives, or purge their meals. But unlike those diagnosed with anorexia, people with atypical anorexia can lose significant amounts of weight but still have a medium or large body size. Others, because of their body's metabolism, hardly lose any weight at all. To the outside world, they appear, quote unquote, overweight. Starting in the mid-2000s, the number of people seeking treatment for the disorder rose sharply. Whether more people are developing atypical anorexia or seeking treatment, or more doctors are recognizing it, is unknown. But this group now comprises up to half of all patients hospitalized in eating disorder programs. Across the board, the pandemic exacerbated eating disorders, including typical and atypical anorexia, through increased isolation, heightened anxiety, and disrupted routines. Hospital and outpatient clinics in the United States and abroad reported the number of consultations and admissions doubling during the COVID lockdowns, and many providers are still overbooked. Almost all of my colleagues were at capacity, says Shara Rosenbooth, an eating disorder therapist who specializes in size and gender diverse clients. They are seeing clients who practice more extreme food restrictions and experience more intense distress around body image and eating habits. The demand has increased, the level of severity has increased, Rosenbooth says. We've never seen waiting lists like this for treatment centers. The idea of a waiting list for a treatment center just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Despite its prevalence, atypical anorexia is still considered widely underdiagnosed and under-researched, and many primary care doctors have never heard of it. Some people being at a standard body weight or overweight can be perplexing to the untrained eye, says Carly McGone, senior member of admissions and outreach for the UC San Diego Health Eating Disorder Center. It's still a surprise for non-specialized clinicians. Patients, too, are in the dark about atypical anorexia. Most people in higher weight bodies are shocked to hear they have anorexia, says Rachel Milner, a psychologist based in Pennsylvania who specializes in eating disorders among people with larger bodies. Nobody ever told them that you can be in a higher weight body and have anorexia, and they're convinced that their problem is their weight. In 2020, Erin Harrop, an assistant professor of social work at the University of Denver, completed a survey of 39 people with atypical anorexia, most of whom were obese, and found the participants endured the disorder for an average of 11.6 years before seeking help. They lost an average of 64 pounds, and a quarter of the group had yet to receive treatment. By comparison, the treatment delays for anorexia are on average 2.5 years for bulimia, 4.4 years, and for binge eating disorder, 5.6 years, according to a 2021 review. To make it easier for people with atypical anorexia to be screened, treated, and insured, there is a growing movement in the field to collapse the categories of anorexia and atypical anorexia into one, to no longer see them as separate illnesses, to decouple anorexia from its virtually synonymous association with thinness. For years, we have thought about anorexia nervosa in one way, says Caroline Costin, an eating disorder therapist who founded an eating disorder treatment center and is co-author of 8 Keys to Recovery from an Eating Disorder. But the way people think about it and how they want to define it is changing. It would be a paradigm shift within the field. However, many are fiercely resistant to letting go of the metric of weight. It would require altering the organizing principle by which the public and greater medical field conceive of the condition. It would also require recognizing that anyone and anybody can starve themselves into poor health, and you never know by looking at them. Pause. I understand what they're saying of if we take away the parameter of weight, that metric of weight, that it would alter things. But isn't it seemingly causing people to go undiagnosed with anorexia? So I don't understand the idea of people being fiercely resistant to letting go of the metric of weight. It took Maxwell a long time to process that she had an eating disorder. She had been so steeped in the gospel of dieting that it was hard to accept that restricting her food was not unequivocally healthy. But as her doctor instructed, she began making visits to the hospital for intravenous fluids and started taking iron supplements. At night, she began attending outpatient sessions at the Liberation Center and a now shuttered facility in Phoenix, where she ate dinner with other clients and attended group therapy. The staff at Liberation told her she needed more intensive treatment and recommended attending a residential program. In the summer of 2018, Maxwell agreed to go to the center in Montgomery, California, that was covered by her insurance. A day after she arrived, however, the insurance rescinded approval. Because of her weight, the company didn't believe she was sick enough to meet the criteria for residential care for eating disorders. So she was advised to go to a residential program for her weight or for her eating disorder, and her insurance said, go fuck yourself because you're too fat and we don't think you deserve it because that's sick. Her insurance eventually authorized her to go to another facility, the Center for Discovery Rancho Palos Verdes, which sits on the Southern California coast. Maxwell's 3-month stay would consist of group meals, outings at restaurants, to practice dining in public settings, yoga, and therapy. I went with the expectation that as soon as I walked in the door, they would be the people who would help me finally become thin once and for all, she said. Instead, on her first day, a dietitian at the center explained that she would need to eat 3 balanced meals and 3 snacks to recover. Her treatment plan also required that she abstain from almost all forms of exercise so her system could recalibrate. Maxwell panicked. She had never consistently eaten that much in her life, in her entire adult life, and she still felt that her body was a problem to be fixed. Maxwell already harbored a deep mistrust of the mental health profession. When she was growing up, she remembered a pastor at her church preaching that psychiatry was the work of the devil. The message seemed to be that anxiety was sinful, a sign of faithlessness. Maxwell had left her church 2 years earlier, but its lessons were still lodged deeply in her mind, and she couldn't abandon her long-held belief, one that her doctors reinforced for much of her life, that thinness was the primary measure of health. Maxwell forced herself to go along with each step of the treatment program. She tried to eat 3 meals and 3 snacks a day, even though it caused her excruciating fear. For years, her thinking had revolved tightly around food and exercise, and during twice-weekly individual therapy sessions and daily group sessions, she tried to learn how to redirect these thoughts. She started to talk about the self-judgment, shame, and childhood trauma that led to rigid behaviors and an over-reliance on control, both central features of restrictive eating disorders. About 5 or 6 weeks into treatment, it dawned on her how much damage she had done to herself. Her esophagus burned from years of purging. She experienced heart palpitations and often dizzy from orthosic hypotension, a type of low blood pressure that leads to dizziness and fainting. Her hair and nails were thin and brittle from malnutrition. I started to realize, holy shit, this is real, she says. I started to see what it had done to my body, the magnitude of it. Over the ensuing weeks, Maxwell began eating enough food that the staff allowed her to go on walks and swim, not to burn calories, but as a part of learning how to live a balanced life. Her physical symptoms started to ease. Her vital signs and blood work improved. She felt less dizzy, her heartbeat more regular. She got her period back for the first time in a decade, and perhaps most surprising, she was not gaining weight despite eating more food. To help her overcome her self-judgment, a nurse suggested that she look in the mirror and express what she liked about her body. Fucking kill me. At first, Maxwell couldn't think of what to say. She could hardly make eye contact with her own reflection, but eventually she thought of something. I am grateful for my curly hair, she said, looking at the nurse in the mirror. When a human body is starving for long enough, it undergoes a complex series of biological, metabolic, and hormonal changes to ensure its own survival. Every system moves to conserve energy, and the body begins to mine muscle and fat for glucose to keep the heart running and the brain functioning. The metabolism slows, which is why some people can eat very little and hardly lose any weight. The digestion simmers down, sometimes causing gastrointestinal trouble, and body temperature plummets while blood flow decreases. Many people who chronically undereat shiver with cold, their hands and feet feeling especially icy. If malnutrition worsens, their hair becomes fragile and falls out, and muscle mass dwindles, including within the heart. People with severe anorexia of any kind have orthothoracic hypertension, heart rates lower than 60 beats per minute, and electrolyte imbalances that may cause arrhythmias or even lead to cardiac arrest. Eventually, a malnourished body can shut down the production of sex hormones. From what little research on atypical anorexia exists, the medical complications appear to be the same as anorexia and occur in similar rates across body sizes, with the exception of bone density loss and low blood sugar, which are worse in those who are emaciated. Recent research has found that body size is a less relevant indicator of severity of both eating disorders than other factors, including the percentage of body mass lost, the speed of that loss, and the duration of the malnourished state. Among scientists, there is a consensus that atypical anorexia and anorexia share the same medical and nutritional issues, but one of the big remaining questions is whether the psychopathology is the same. Some clinicians believe it is, but minimal research exists to confirm this. In the slim populations that have been studied, psychologists have observed a grim momentum to the illness. Sufferers lose just a few pounds, and then all of a sudden, they compulsively want to lose more, as if a mental switch flips. Genetic predispositions may explain why some people lose weight and their minds tip into disordered eating while others do not. In the short term, resisting hunger pangs can make people feel powerful and even euphoric. But soon the effects of starvation on the brain set in. Mental fog, difficulty concentrating, memory issues. People become secretive, irritable, and inflexible in their thinking. The gray matter of their brain shrinks, and it appears that the neural pathways related to rewards can be reversed. It's not clear if that's a pre-existing trait or if an effect of the illness. Food that typically results in a dopamine hit now inspires dread. The crippling fear of weight gain begins to outcompete the biological urge to eat, spiraling downward into more weight loss and disordered thinking. Because of the complex interplay between the physical and mental symptoms of starvation, the first steps to recovery for people with malnutrition are to eat more and gain weight, a process called refeeding or renourishment, before working on the behavioral and cognitive aspects of the disease. But for people who are acutely ill, eating too much too fast increases a risk of potentially fatal fluid and electrolyte imbalances that can develop in malnourished bodies. Specific protocols govern how people with anorexia are refed, and research is still emerging on how to renourish people with atypical anorexia. A 2019 study led by Andrea K. Garber, a professor of pediatrics and chef nutritionist for the eating disorder program at UC San Francisco, found that when atypical anorexia patients were given the same high-calorie foods and in the same portions as anorexia patients, they did not recover as well. It might sound like a no-brainer, Garber says. They have a larger body size, so we can believe that they need more nutrition to cover. But clinicians, many of whom have been trained to focus on weight as a predominant health measure, have to navigate how to best advise patients who face both the perils of potentially fatal restrictive eating disorder and the health risks associated with the larger body sizes. In one case study, for example, a 15-year-old girl with atypical anorexia had stopped having her period and was hospitalized for severe malnutrition and biocardia, a dangerously slow heart rate. Refeeding helped her recover from her eating disorder, but then she lost her period again because of polycystic ovarian syndrome, a condition that occurs in people of all sizes, but more common and often more severe in people who had a higher percentage of body fat. Some psychologists report that atypical anorexia is harder to treat than anorexia nervosa because the fear of weight gain is even greater in people who have been bullied and ashamed for their size. The biggest difference in the two conditions, some psychologists believe, may be how they are perceived by the outside world. Biases that persist even in places where patients go to seek help. After she left the center of discovery, Rancho Palos Verdes, and moved to South Carolina, Maxwell started a partial hospitalization program at the Eating Recovery Center in Greenville. She immediately began noticing how her size was affecting the quality of her treatment. When she arrived, a staff member put her in a room and told her to wait, while the people with normal, quote-unquote, eating disorders gathered next door. At lunch, she was told to sit by herself in the back of the dining room, while the other clients sat together with their backs to her. The center had mistaken her diagnosis for binge eating disorder and had a policy of separating those clients from the others. Sometimes staff members singled her out and had her eat less than small-bodied patients. At group therapy sessions, in which she was the only large person in the room, another patient shared that she would rather die than be fat. The Eating Recovery Center does not comment on that individual patient's experience, but since 2021, it says that it has made efforts to counteract weight stigma in the treatment centers. Erin Harrop, the social work professor that uses they/them pronouns, has experienced both ends of the spectrum for eating disorders. They attended treatment for anorexia in their early 20s with a small body. Then several years later, they returned for treatment for atypical anorexia. Harrop was shocked by the difference. Even though they had been diagnosed with atypical anorexia and had lost nearly 20% of their body weight and were experiencing orthothoracic blood pressure, the therapist at the treatment center did not believe her diagnosis and even encouraged them to compare themselves to sicker residents. In their 2020 survey of people with atypical anorexia, Harrop discovered that every participant had also been overlooked, misdiagnosed, or excluded. Almost everyone had approached medical providers with symptoms of malnutrition like hair loss, dropped periods, fainting, vomiting blood, or dry or bleeding skin, but it took years and sometimes decades for anyone to screen them for an eating disorder. As a teenager, one participant, Eli, believed she had an eating issue and approached her doctor about it. The physician disagreed, instead telling her that she could actually probably lose a little bit of weight. It took 8 more years before Eli began treatment for atypical anorexia. Another participant, Lexi, remembered a physician telling her, "You don't look anorexic. You don't look underweight. Just call me fat." Tori, a participant, was diagnosed by her therapist, but was then denied treatment referrals by her physician, who said she was too overweight. Layla, who consumed nothing but bone broth and lost 22% of her body weight, was diagnosed with compulsive eating. 2 participants had been hospitalized for being suicidal and for their eating disorder symptoms that were barred from joining an eating disorder support group because they were told they were too large. One participant, while seeking treatment at a center for eating disorders, was given a diet book. Sharia Rosenbooth, the eating disorder therapist, has struggled with atypical anorexia and says treatment actually made her sicker. At one center, a nurse insisted that she had a food addiction and continually commented on her meals, which were dictated by the dietitian. The nurse recommended Overeaters Anonymous and the controversial Gray Sheet Diet, a low-carb, no sugar, no alcohol regimen for people who compulsively overeat. Even though Rosenbluth had lost significant weight. At various points, she experienced orthostatic blood pressure and abnormally low phosphorus, which can cause bone pain, irregular breathing, numbness, or heart failure. Blood work showed that her pancreas wasn't functioning properly. Still, she was given less food than smaller-bodied people. At another center, when patients had ice cream cones, she got a kid-sized one. For 2 years, she went from treatment center to treatment center, hoping that each one would be better than the last. Finally, she gave up altogether and stayed with a friend, a psychologist in the field, who oversaw her meals and helped her become more stable. For the first time, she says, I was getting care without stigma attached. In recognition of the inconsistent care that people with atypical anorexia sometimes receive, a small vanguard of professionals in the field are experimenting with ways to improve treatment for people with larger bodies. Ellen Harrop runs weight stigma training sessions for treatment centers, hospitals, and social work graduate students. Lisa Brownstone, an assistant professor at the University of Denver, is piloting psychotherapy groups for eating disordered patients who have been traumatized by weight stigma. Centers like Opal, Food and Body Wisdom in Seattle have hired body diverse staff members, created physical spaces that accommodate a range of bodies, and train therapists on size inclusivity. But there's only so much they can do before butting up against systemic challenges. And the biggest one is discriminatory insurance coverage. The most important one, I would say, yeah, sure, hire. It's like that paragraph kind of annoys me because it's like, sure, hire a range of different body sizes so everyone at the treatment center that may vary in size can feel comfortable. But getting the coverage of this care is what is most important. I totally think that, there should be seminars on weight stigma for professionals. I totally get that. But not having access to this care because of cruel insurance companies is top of the list. And it kind of feels like it was kind of thrown in at the end. Some atypical anorexia patients are authorized for treatment for only 2 or 3 weeks before they are cut off, an almost impossibly short period of time to recover. Certain insurance companies outright deny coverage for people with larger bodies. Lexi Giblin, Opal's executive director, has seen some patients with atypical anorexia not receive authorization for treatment, even though they have the same symptoms as someone with a smaller body. The invalidization of the insurance company can certainly contribute to the symptoms themselves, Giblin says. They can become part of the eating disorder. We've had folks who are denied authorization, then come back later, and their eating disorder has escalated since the last time we saw them. That's pretty common. Okay, I'm just going to throw this out there to medical professionals and the people in this field. Lie to the insurance company about the weight of the patient. Lie. Lie, 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 lie. Instead of saying this person is 250 pounds, say they're, 99. Just put 99 on the line. Just have that be the weight across the board so that insurance companies, if they don't want to approve insurance coverage, if they don't want to approve treatment for fat people, then just have it all be, okay, everyone weighs 99 pounds. That's what does insurance company know? So annoying. The issue stems not only from a lack of knowledge about a relatively new diagnosis, it also is a product of how the diagnosis is named and coded. Because it's labeled atypical and filed under the murky other specific feeding or eating disorder category, it's often seen as less dangerous. It's an absurd diagnosis, says Jennifer A. Galdini, an internist who specializes in eating disorders in Denver and the author of Sick Enough, a guide to the medical complications of eating disorders. There's nothing atypical about it. If there's anything atypical, it's the people who get underweight. And that's another thing with not having atypical anorexia and anorexia nervosa not combined. It's causing people who live in bigger bodies to not get the treatment that they need. Okay, getting back into this. To make it easier for people to secure care, some therapists, social workers, and researchers have been advocating combining atypical anorexia and anorexia by removing the requirement to have a significantly low weight from the standard anorexia diagnosis. But the idea of merging the categories has ignited strong feelings within the field. With fierce support by people with larger bodies who have suffered from weight discrimination and incredulous opposition, largely behind closed doors, among some researchers who have devoted their careers to the illness as it is currently described. Opponents argue that such a change would be premature. Much remains unknown about atypical anorexia, including its brain biology, genetics, and pathology, all of which could help inform treatment and the treatment of drugs. To date, there is no pharmacological treatments for anorexia. Distinguishing between the two, they say, is crucial to studying them effectively. It is not helpful to us if we put atypical anorexia nervosa folks in the same bucket as typical anorexia nervosa, says Guido Frank, a psychiatry professor at UC San Diego who specializes in the brain biology of eating disorders. I'm not saying they're any less ill. That's the last thing I want to say. To define and devise the right treatments for each of the subgroups, we're best advised that we also study them in a way separately or along trajectory. I get what this doctor is saying about having the research done, and if you combine anorexia and atypical anorexia, then it muddles the research, I guess you could say. But there is no separate help for people with atypical anorexia. So maybe if we're not combining anorexia and atypical anorexia, we're coming up with a different name for atypical anorexia, because at the end of the day, the real crime here is that candidates who are in larger bodies and seen as quote unquote overweight are not getting the help that they need. But proponents of the change say the weight requirement for anorexia causes those with medium and larger bodies to be excluded from many studies. They also point out that the line between the two diagnoses is not particularly scientific and has harmful effects on the patient's ability to secure care. Harrop argues that the anorexia diagnosis could be structured as a spectrum, with weight as one component, but not as the predominant one. Physicians could look at a wider set of factors when screening, diagnosing, and treating eating disorders. Eating disorder diagnoses have overlapping symptoms anyways, Harrop says. The patient often crossed over between illnesses. About 36% of people with anorexia develop bulimia at some point, and 27% of people with bulimia develop anorexia, according to one study. Diagnosis affect not only how doctors and insurance companies categorize patients, but also how people understand their own illnesses. The diagnosis seems to live in a no man's land of categorization. Many people who suffer from eating disorders say that the differentiation further perpetuates a societal hierarchy. Just as living in a thin body comes with certain privileges, anorexia itself lives at the top in a kind of disordered eating class system. According to Mimi Cole, a therapist who had atypical anorexia and hosts The Lovely Becoming, a mental health podcast, she says, a common belief among people with atypical anorexia, and I shared this too, is I need to lose more weight so that I have anorexia. So I can be sicker, I can meet criteria, and I can have a real eating disorder. These days, Maxwell's inner landscape is very different than it once was. Before she started recovery, she would have spent her time at the beach worried about what she was wearing or not wearing, what she had eaten or would eat later, and what other people were thinking or not thinking about her body. Fogged by this tangle of thoughts, she would miss the experience. Now she doesn't give those things much thought. Maxwell is choosing to recover as fully as she can, but it's not easy. After 19 years of going undiagnosed, she still suffers from the mental, physical, and social costs of anorexia. Doctors are monitoring her recovery from long QT syndrome, an electrical issue with the heart that can turn into potentially fatal arrhythmias. Long QT syndrome is a rare side effect of anorexia. She also has an annual endoscopy to assess the slow healing of her damaged esophagus from years of vomiting. She has incurred mountains of debt from months of treatment. She checks in with her doctor and therapist regularly and texts photos of her meal to her dietitian as proof that she's eating 3 meals a day, a standard in recovery. She attends an eating disorder support group, even though she has rarely seen another large-bodied person there. She has also started to cook for herself, but to be a larger person in this world is to be constantly reminded of how other people view your body. Often when she posts about recovery and fat positivity on Instagram or TikTok, a flurry of trolls arrives from the backwaters of the internet to riddle her feed with insults and death threats. But Maxwell has received direct messages from people who have struggled in similar ways. They have never admitted to themselves, let alone to their families or friends, how much they are suffering. Many people with anorexia describe the illness as a battle between two selves. One is a maniacal superego, hell-bent on control at all costs in a misguided attempt to find safety. It imposes perfectionistic rules and restrictions in Sisyphean pursuit of an unreachable ideal. Some feel it is intent on self-destruction. This self, which Maxwell calls the conceptualized self, enforces all of the expectations of one's upbringing and the culture at large and sees the world in lifeless tones of black and white like an old TV. The second is what Maxwell calls the authentic self. For her, it's the self that spontaneously breaks into impromptu dance and wears t-shirts that reads, "Don't be a butthole to yourself and therapy is cool." This self has a penchant for gold glitter and animal print and signs up for a rec basketball team on a whim, something she would never have allowed herself to do before. She can eat strawberries or a sandwich or an ice cream cone in public. This self is no longer concerned with being quiet and obedient or apologizing for her existence. And perhaps most important, she has no interest in making herself small. I told you that was long. Yes, that was really long, but I thought it was really, really interesting. If you're noticing cuts throughout the time, if you're watching on YouTube and you're noticing sort of abrupt cuts, it's because I don't know how to speak into a microphone, and so I often will jumble my words, so I had to retake a lot of things. Or I've just cut out portions of the article that were good, but I'm going to include the article in the description of the show, so you can take a look at it yourself. Again, it's from the New York Times, and I recommend reading the whole thing yourself, but I thought that was a really, really great article, very interesting, and I don't think people realize how everyone sort of has this bias of thinking that only people that are extraordinarily thin have anorexia. It may just be easier to see in thin people, but it's not exclusive to them. On the side of do you combine atypical anorexia and anorexia into one, I'm all for with just combining it into one because people need care. You're doing this science and this research to help people so that they can get better and properly diagnosed, and to have everything be held on the caveat of, oh, well, you have to be in a thin body to be a typical anorexic person, just isn't ethical, in my opinion. But what do I know? I have a lot more researching and reading to do on this, and I feel very grateful to have this podcast to do that. And so having said that, I hope you're still here, and we're going to get into our interview with our guest this week. She is a dear friend of mine, very funny, and I feel very blessed to know her. Please give a warm welcome to the very funny Claire Alexander. Claire, thank you so much for coming onto I Feel Fat Today. It's so good to have you. Claire Alexander is one of my best friends. We've been friends. We were like fast friends, you know, like it was one of those things where I remember like very vividly, and I was probably in comedy like around the 6-month mark, maybe a little bit less. And I just went to a mic with May. It was our first time hanging out. She like sent me a message on Facebook. On Facebook, it's so funny. Sent me a message on Facebook and was like, "Oh, Judy, our mutual friend, like she told me you do comedy, like let's hit a mic. So that night we went to a mic and she was like, oh, my friend Claire is also going to join. And I remember being so nervous, being like, just be funny in front of these two girls. Like, this is your chance to finally have friends in comedy. And all three of us were so funny at that mic. And like, you know exactly which mic I'm talking about too. And then after that, we went to that bar to hang out. And then it was just like friends ever since. Yeah. And now you're doing my podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah,
that was, I'll never forget that, Mike. And I felt exactly the same way.
Yeah.
And
I think we all felt like we just needed to be funny in front of each other. Like we didn't know how funny each other were or anything.
And like, I don't, it's like, oh God, sometimes it just feels so lonely doing comedy, and it's so important, to have like such good friendships, and I'm so thankful that you're in my life. And
I feel like you are somebody that's really good at making friends.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Like I will walk into a mic and like it's not that I don't know anybody, but like I'll know less people there, and it's like feels much more of like an acquaintance thing, whereas you, like, I'll be standing next to this person that I kind of know, and you walk in and like embrace them with a hug. Have you always been that way?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what made me an orientation leader.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and that's like, I don't know, and like I'm a server. Like I think I really have a passion for like talking to people and like just like, I don't know, chatting and experiencing things. I don't know how to express it without sounding like I'm on mushrooms all the time.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, when do you hit your wall? Like, when does the social battery run dry? Because for me, if I have a weekend full of events and like drinking aside, like I'm not saying hungover, like if I have a weekend of events, like I'm looking for my Monday to be more isolated. So how do you function?
Well, like today I had the day off, and from my job as a server, and I like woke up and I kind of just like I like let myself go on TikTok, you know.
Hell yeah.
And we're always saying like, oh, you know, I wanted too much. We had this conversation once about this.
Yeah.
And it's like I'll go on it for like 2 hours because I never do.
I love your perspective on it. Like I'll be saying like, oh, I lay in bed and I just scroll before I go to sleep, and you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. And I'm like,
so
it is okay. It is okay.
And like I do a lot of like, I don't know, I really try to listen to my body. I used to not. When we first like were doing so much comedy in the city, just like do it like oh my God, we were disgusting.
I know.
We were trying to do like 15 mics a week.
I know.
And it was awful, and I would not take breaks then, and I would be like falling asleep in the back of clubs, which I truly romanticize and feel really cool about, but like that's not good.
Right.
And it like falling asleep and like crying at mics about other shit, and just like, so now I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable enough that I can like, this is a long journey. This is a long journey. We have years and years and years to go.
It's a fucking marathon.
So if you need to like chill out and go to bed at 6 p.m., do it, because it's like not worth the pain that you're going to have. And I was talking to somebody recently about this, about how like we're stressed about having our day job and still trying to like make it in our respective industries. And it's like the day job is part of the trying to make it.
Yeah.
Like every day you go to work is part of making it in comedy.
Something
in a way,
has to finance this fucking grind, for lack of a better word.
So it's like, okay to do that. It's okay to just have a day where you just go to work. And it's hard to like measure. Like I think my hardest challenge is like measuring like the difference between like, oh, okay, am I breaking too much or am I doing too much? And it's really hard to find that problem, because I could break forever if I wanted.
I know, same. But I'll say the thing that makes me not break is the guilt that I feel, the guilt I feel about it, because I've learned to allow myself, like, if I had a rough day at work, which, you know, it depends on how rough a day is, but if I have a rough day at work and I'm not booked on a show, and in my head I was like, I'm gonna go to a mic, and then at the end of the day I'm like, I think I kind of just need to make dinner and chill. Like I'm gonna afford myself to do that. Like if I haven't done it in a minute, you know, totally.
I think that's so important. I think it's good to do comedy like as much as you can, but by as much as you can, I mean when your body is saying, I need to make dinner, that means you can't.
Yeah.
That means you have to make dinner.
And I think there's something too, like with, we have to, our bodies like keep this engine going. Like our bodies are the engine that keeps the thing going. And so with comedy, I find that like if I'm out and about, like I'm eating out a lot, I'm not making dinner. I'm not a fucking meal prepper. I'm never going to meal prep.
I'm never going to do that.
Never going to do that. At best, I'll like cook a lot of something and like have a few meals or whatever for after, like, you know, the next day or something. But I feel like with doing comedy, or I guess with anything, it's not just comedy, but like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm out, I'm just gonna get a slice of pizza and then that'll be my meal. And then all of a sudden I get home and it's like I after a few days of that, I'm like, I think I've only eaten pizza all week. Like, do you fall into those ruts, or are you good at like, I'm gonna make sure I get my veggies in?
No, I'm really bad. So because I work at a restaurant, I like mostly eat at the restaurant and I'm like poor too.
Well, I feel that's another thing.
Yeah.
So I feel like, because I've eaten at your restaurant before and it's very good.
Oh my God.
I feel like they have like quinoa bowls and stuff, right?
Yeah. I'll have the quinoa bowl almost every day, or like a salad almost every day. But then like, you know, sometimes I'll have a pastry and sometimes I'll have like a lot of sugar in my I really try to have lettuce in there.
Yeah.
And like oddly enough, the person that brought this up to me was my like the worst guy ever, my stupid ex-boyfriend. But like one time he was a lot older than me, and then one time he was making a smoothie and he was like, you got to do this because you don't want to die, like you have to eat lettuce and stuff and like eat. And I was like, and so that's one thing I was like, okay, he was right about like
okay this is what I'll say about that, and this is what I'm hoping to explore with this podcast amongst other things. I feel like the way that dieting is advertised, it's all or nothing. And for women, and I can only speak from a woman's perspective, but I feel like for women, it's like all about weight loss all the time. Mm-hmm. Whereas for men, it's about like sustenance and fuel.
Yeah,
like your stupid ex looks at it from the perspective of like, no, I need these things to feel good and to like, you know, keep going.
Yeah. He was like 35 and he was like, I'm 35, Claire. Like if I don't eat vegetables, I'm gonna fall apart.
My hangover is gonna last.
Yeah, and
for
so
days.
I was like, and so I think about that. Only that.
Mm-hmm.
I think about that. I'm like, I have to have some lettuce. I really try to put some lettuce in there. I try not to get the smoothies or whatever from the deli. The ones that come in, I forget what they're called, but the ones that come in with the blue lid and stuff that taste really yummy.
The naked ones?
Yeah, I try not to get those because I know they just have so much extra sugar, and I'm like, that's not what I'm drinking this for.
I know, but
I'll buy them occasionally though, and they're yummy.
They're so yummy, and like, I know because like they're like Cliff Bars or something. Mm-hmm. It's like you might as well have a Snickers. Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe I do mentally need it to be a Cliff Bar and not a Snickers bar. But
well, I mean, like I would totally have one as a treat. But like if I don't, I'm like, no, this can't be like I'm not gonna drink this green naked juice and be like, this is my nutrients, because it's not.
Yeah, totally.
But I do love them.
I know, they're so yummy. I saw this one TikTok actually where there's this account where someone or this guy will take like candy and redo the packaging to look like a protein bar. So he did it with Reese's.
Oh my
God. And he was like, this is all legal. This is all stuff that they could do. And I remember thinking, like, I commented something like, don't give them any ideas. Because
they will.
Yeah. He's like, I'm going to take the king size Reese cup and redo the packaging. So we made it like a white packaging and like put like big protein, like Reese's Plus.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, 8 grams of protein or however many grams of protein. Cause like that's also the new thing now. Like if you're scrolling on TikTok, all the girlies are saying like, you got to get your protein where you can. Protein. It's like there's always these cycles of like what the
new stylish
like what you need to be doing. Like for us growing up, it was like low carb, Atkins.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to get into, we just like go off in tangents, which is great. But so I wanted to ask you, so growing up, were you at all in sports or were you all theater all the way?
Oh, my parents made me play a sport.
Okay. For
every
how long?
Every year. So I played soccer a couple of years because that was the easiest one to not have to do anything in my experience. I was like goalie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which doesn't get much use when you're playing soccer as a first grader. Nobody's fucking scoring. And then at one point I played softball. Obviously, because I'm bisexual, so somehow I had to learn that. I liked softball a little. I'm just like not very fascinated by sports. It's like really technical and like not my vibe.
And I feel
and
like
I started theater.
Were you ever like into dance?
No, I'm a horrible dancer. That was actually that's my least favorite thing about doing musical theater.
Really?
Yeah, I'm a really bad dancer.
You're a really good singer.
Oh my God, thank you. I always thought that I was like, I can sing, I can act, I like can't dance. So I was like, I need to be a lead at all times because I never have to dance.
I always wanted to be a singer, but I just was never something I did. And I'm tone deaf. Like I cannot hold a tune.
Really? I didn't know this.
Yeah. But I feel like dancing was one of those things like I always thought like that could be a learned skill. And apparently singing can be a learned skill, but I don't know. I think I would be like the last stand for a sing teacher, a voice coach.
I think that they can all be learned skills.
They can all be learned?
Yeah. I think that there are people that are born like ahead of the game with like more privileged talent,
just like having that
things.
Instrument.
Yeah, but like truly I feel like everything in life, and really forgive me here because I saw this in an interview that Pitbull did recently.
I love it.
But he's like, I'm not the best rapper, but I'm like I try to be the hardest working one.
Yeah.
And
Mr.
like
Worldwide.
Hey, that gets you far enough to sell out the Hard Rock Cafe lounge that I went to go see him at.
Did that going to the Pitbull concert in Atlantic City, did that live up to everything you thought it would be? And was it worth the struggle of like working, taking the bus down, taking the bus back and working? Was it all worth it?
Yeah, it was all worth it.
I'm so glad to hear that.
It was totally all worth it. I did think the venue was ugly, but like I love Pitbull, so I don't care.
Yeah.
It was worth it. I'm going to Atlantic City tomorrow, actually.
Oh, fun for comedy.
Bachelorette trip.
Oh, Bachelorette. Yeah. That's funny that people go to Atlantic City.
It's my second time.
Yeah.
With the same friend group, too.
That's so funny.
People are going to start to think I like Atlantic City.
What do they do in Atlantic City?
Casinos, clubs.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, the expectations of like, you can be like, everybody wants you to be a slut there.
Yeah.
It's more welcome.
I guess, oh God, I'm really like looking at it as a 30-year-old, which I am not a person that's like, I'm 30 now, I don't go out. But I went like the moment I turned 21, it was like, I'm going to AC with my friends. So like 21 to 25, 26, it was like AC. And like, I guess I just get hungover thinking about it. But then again, you are younger than me. So.
I've only been twice. So this will be my third time. And I'm excited. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I love seeing these girls, so it'll be fun. But
that'll be great.
And the bus is fine. It's not that bad.
Cool. Okay, so you were doing theater all throughout high school.
Yeah.
Did you do theater in college?
Yeah, I did theater in college. Actually, I went to a musical theater high school too. My senior, or like a theater high school. I did straight theater my senior year of high school.
So was the high school that you went to your senior the same as freshman through junior?
No, so I went to like regular high school all 4 years, but my senior year I went to a magnet school on top of that.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's actually where I started doing stand-up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Because like I feel like we've all been doing stand-up like around 5 years, but you have been doing it longer just based on that.
Based on that, then I went to college and I didn't really do it until my senior year of college. So like I've been doing it for like kind of 5 or 6 years now, but like I did start almost 10 years ago, but like I didn't really do it for, it's like, and then you move to New York and you're like, whoa, I was never really doing it.
Yeah.
Because like in Connecticut, I was doing it like 3 times a week, and like, but you moved to New York City and you do it like 15 times a week, and you're like, that's different.
Totally. So getting into college, my favorite thing about us is that our first day that we met, we were talking about just like our lives and like schools, high schools, college, and one of us brought up that we were in a sorority. And we were like, oh my God, which one? It's like D5E. It's like, no way. So we both realized or found out that we were in the same sorority, but at different schools and different, times of our lives. And so that was great. That was fun being in a sorority.
Yeah.
It's interesting looking at, because does your sorority page have an Instagram?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So I see the girls that are, and again, I'm 30, but I see the girls that are, 18 getting into the sorority now. And I'm like, I don't think I would have gotten a bid back then if this is the caliber of women that they were letting into, having joined the sorority. Do you feel that?
I actually feel the opposite.
Really?
Yeah, because like they totally changed everything at my school after I left.
Yeah.
So now it's like everybody.
So so this is what I want to ask you. I wanted to get into the sorority that I was in college because it was the hot girl sorority.
Me too.
And I was like, if I get into that sorority, I'm a hot girl. And so did it, went out, got in, and it's like, it's all I wanted. And then I got in and then immediately was like, oh man, I think I'm one of the biggest girls in this chapter. And I wasn't fat. I just, it was like cognitively, I was bigger than the other girls. So and your chapter was everyone skinny, or were there some fat girls in the sorority?
We had a nice mix, actually.
Oh, okay.
But literally by the time I joined, I don't think it was like that, but like, and actually even before that, it was always like a really athletic, like the way my sorority went was, it was like changing throughout the years, honestly.
Okay.
I feel like it changed pretty quickly, but like when I got in, I felt like fine and appreciated and everything. And then like a year or so in, I was like, oh, I'm never going to be like one of the hot girls in my sorority. I was like, I'm not skinny. I'm not cool enough. Like I felt like there was something weird.
Did you feel disconnected from the group?
Not from the whole group. It was big enough. I think my sorority was a little bit bigger than yours. It was like big enough that like I had a really good core group of friends in there that I'm still really close with. That we see all the time and stuff. I
know the people that I've met from your sorority, I love.
Yeah. And I really loved like a lot of people in it. I think just like hanging out all together with so many people, after a while it gets like tough. And I don't know, I just didn't feel like that cool. But I wasn't really self-conscious about I think I was self-conscious about my body. And that's definitely clear in like the way I would drink. I would get really drunk, and
that was the way I would be nervous and feeling like I was like, kind of writhing in my clothes, and it's like, all right, time to down this beer.
Yeah, I would like look at like pictures of myself and be like, oh my God, I look terrible. And I like, but I was still like, that wasn't like the worst part of my like body appearance journey. I think, I don't think I've ever felt like good in my body. There were like times when I was in high school that I did, and I was like, I don't know why, because I look back and I'm like, I don't like why I liked the way I looked then, like because I was skinny, and I don't like that.
Okay, so you're saying that you like when you're in high school you were thin and you liked that about yourself.
Yeah, and I don't like that.
Yeah,
was something I liked,
but that is completely normal. I was looking through my phone for pictures, and like how on an iPhone you can actually search by a map. And so you can go to which is like the best way to search for photos. But because I was doing that, I was like zooming into like a certain area of like New Jersey because I was looking for very specific photos. And so there was photos from like 2016, and all these photos were popping up where for a split second I was like, who is that bitch? And I clicked on it, I'm like, wow, that was me. And like, granted, that was 2016. That was like years ago now. And like the older we get, our bodies change. But I looked at that photo that popped up and I was like, you hated yourself in that photo.
Yeah.
You hated yourself. And like, not that I would kill to have that body now, because it's like, I can't think like that.
There's
and
so much. That's such a loaded thing to say.
Yeah. But I was like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it and I've had that moment many times in my life, looking back at photos of myself.
Yeah.
And it just really is just all perception of how we feel about ourselves. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I want to ask, was when or if, because this may not be a universal thing, was the concept of dieting introduced to you?
Oh my God. High school.
High school.
High school is the time I remember it. I'm sure I heard about it before. I remember my mom talking about it before, because my mom, I think, is also in the same boat of like, the kind of like we've both been like, yeah, we don't love our bodies. We've both made comments about like how my mom has these like skinny brother. Like my mom's brother is so skinny, and like we've always been like,
and like
she's a beautiful woman.
Yeah, like I
great.
wouldn't look at her and be like, that woman is overweight.
Yeah,
but she just. Yeah.
Here's the thing, nobody does, but we look at ourselves that way. But so I think I brought up dieting to my mom when I was like younger, and my mom like shut it down immediately. She's like, that never works. You just gain all the weight back. Yeah.
Shout
so
out to Mom.
Yeah, she did a good job. I like one thing I'm actually like really thankful for is that my mom was never like a primal figure in giving me the insecurities I have about my body.
You discovered those on your own.
Yeah, I did that all by myself.
You're a self-starter.
But I'm like really individual like that. But no, I really do appreciate that my mom was never like somebody who would make me like feel like that.
I don't know. I don't know how I expected you to answer that. I think that because you're from Connecticut, I just assumed that your mom would have been like that she would have been a mom that like, is very concerned about her daughter's looks.
No, most of my friends' parents are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my family was a little unique. My family is always an insecurity I had then was that my family is. I have like a weird little like we go on vacations to go see science museums family and that I was insecure about when I was a kid. But no, my family was always I think if my family had been like, I know a lot of people who like grew up very athletic and with moms that were very thin and that jogged like 4 times a day or whatever, and were very serious about that stuff. And I think my family was just like that just like was never really as much of a priority in my family. Definitely still something I'm self-conscious about is like I mean like always be I've never had a period in my life where I was like I look amazing even when I thought I was skinny, and I think everyone says that too. But I was more insecure about like other stuff when I was younger.
What stuff were you insecure about?
I was like insecure that I was weird. I was insecure that everyone was gonna think I was a lesbian. I was insecure about doing musical theater. I was insecure just like that about my chin. I was insecure about my areolas.
Who was seeing your areolas?
Well, once I got to college, I would like fucking, this is so embarrassing. I would apologize. I would be like, by the way, my areolas are huge. I don't know why I ever said that to anybody.
It's like, it was classic. I'm going to make a joke about this before you do. Like,
yeah. And you're thinking of me too highly. And I was more like, God, I think I just like wanted people to be like, Claire, like you're beautiful and I love you all the time.
No one spoke like that.
Yeah.
You may have been the person that was like, you're beautiful and great. Like,
yeah,
I would totally do stuff like that too. And my friends would be like, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's just like we didn't have the language, I think, that we do now.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I feel like now girls in college would have more of the, no, you're beautiful, you're great,
I think we're coming into a much more like, I think society is making like a slow transition into like being more like honest.
Yeah.
And appreciative.
You mentioned something and I forgot what it was. I wanted to refer back to it. You were talking about, okay, so, and anything that I bring up that you don't want to, we'll cut out. You had to deal with scoliosis.
Oh yeah.
So, and
I was insecure about that.
Yeah. So as you were talking about your insecurities, I was like, oh yeah, scoliosis. So this podcast, like, it isn't just about weight. Like, it's funny because if you were to ask me when I was like in 6th grade, would you rather have scoliosis or feel like you're overweight, I probably would have opted for scoliosis because all I knew was like having this feeling of like not fitting into my clothes correctly. And, you know, you're dumb and don't know what the grass is always greener, right?
Yeah.
So what was that like?
It was, so I still have it. It's like fine now. It's just like, I was thinking about this yesterday because I was at the doctor yesterday, and it's like, I was like 10, 11, 12, going to the doctor all the time, stripping down to my underwear and putting on a gown, and then bending over and having like a man who's 4 times my age look at my son. And then one thing I thought that was the worst was there were always the medical students always come in. There's like 5 or 6 guys.
Medical students for pediatric doesn't feel.
It was like, well, I mean, because this is like a really important time of scoliosis. So I guess it makes sense. I don't know, but it all felt weird. It always felt weird. It never felt good.
I felt like your parents would definitely be like, in the name of science, we will let these young doctors.
My parents were. My parents again, like, and it's so funny. Every time I talk about my parents, I'm very like, they're great people. Don't get twisted. I've hated my parents before. Yeah. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah, yeah.
But with this, they were very much like, I would sit and scream and cry in the car, and they would just be like, I know.
I mean,
and then I would calm down.
Being a parent and like having a kid that has this, you know, disease, that's what?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's
like
a disease.
Having this disease that they need to get medical treatment for, and like,
and not only like medical treatment, but like the most embarrassing medical treatment.
Yeah.
Like, I had to wear a back brace in school, and like, sorry, baby.
Yeah, talk about
like,
insecurity.
No, I'm yelling, and Finney was like, hey.
This is what he's here for, is to give aggressive pets too.
Yeah, I like, I had to wear a back brace, and I was like, oh my God. I've felt so many times in my life that I'm like, oh, of course, like the awkward, weird thing has to happen to me. How do I explain this to anyone? And I learned as I got older, hey, you don't have to explain everything to everybody.
Isn't that a concept?
Yeah.
Such a concept.
Which sometimes I give up and I don't. Like yesterday I had this whole like, oh my God, I thought my IUD was falling out, and I had work and I just fucking told everybody I work with, because they were like, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be fine. I think my IUD is falling out. Like, it's like, okay, like, don't worry. I'm just going to like, when somebody else comes in, I'm going to go to the doctor.
Oh my gosh. How's everything on the
Everything's
IUD
fine.
front?
We're
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Apparently I just have BV.
Oh, yeah, been there.
So whatever.
BV, been there.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to tell anybody that. So I'm going to tell everybody, yeah, I got a new IUD.
You just went in for a tune-up. It's fine.
Yeah, I was like, whatever, it's fine.
So you would periodically in middle school, high school have to like wear a back brace?
Well, not really periodically. I like, so from like 8th grade to I think like 10th grade, I wore a back brace in school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I wore it in school every day.
Wow.
22 hours a day.
And were you able to take it off for like
gym
play
class
practice?
And sometimes I would take it off for rehearsal. I just like, it was I don't know. Because I also was like a little scared, because they were like, if you don't wear this correctly, like you will have to get surgery. And the surgery is really intrusive and dangerous. And my brother had the surgery. I watched it be really intrusive and dangerous. You stay in the hospital for a week. Spine. You have,
So can you explain for those who are watching, listening, that don't know what scoliosis is?
Oh, okay. So scoliosis is like it's a hereditary illness. So it's so funny because like my parents like both have a little bit of scoliosis, like, so then I have some, and it's like where your spine just doesn't grow straight, and it grows kind of crooked, and there's really not that much. Most people have it too. Like, there's really not that much of an issue with it unless it gets too extreme with like one of the curves, and then your ribs crush your lung.
Okay. I can like anatomically that makes sense.
Yeah.
What you're saying.
So it's basically like you know, the spine ends up kind of like being like a little funky, which makes sense because like we're not all perfect design. And so, and the time when the spine grows the most is during puberty, which is for me like they kind of discovered this pretty seriously when I was in 7th grade, and then they gave me the back brace when I was in 8th grade, and then I wore it 8th grade, 9th grade, I think halfway through 10th grade, all day, so that like just to, because that's as advanced as they've gotten in science as far as they're like, we don't know how to do anything besides like just if you physically contain it.
Yeah, like wearing a retainer.
Like wearing a retainer, like wearing literal braces on your teeth, like just to physically try to keep your body. It
feels so medieval.
It is medieval. It looked like a corset, but like derogatory. Like,
yeah, like not a good one.
Because it like went up on one side.
Yeah.
And then it was funny because like my one boob would be pushed up when I got boobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when I first got it, no boobs, so it didn't matter. And then eventually I was like, hey, one of these things looks huge. So my mom bought me chicken cutlets to put on the other side so that it would even out.
That's so nice of your mom to do.
My parents were like, really good about that. I think even at the time, I remember like my one friend, like her grandparents died, and my one friend, her parents were getting divorced, and my thing was that I had to wear a back brace, and I was like, I'm glad I have the back brace.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have the parents for the back. Like, the parents are supportive. Like, I'm like, I can handle this.
Yeah. And your brother was
I wouldn't
want to
put this on. Yeah. My brother didn't know he had it either until like his 9th grade or 10th grade. And then and he was supposed to have the surgery in the summer after his like 10th grade. But then they were like, we actually can't wait that long. We have to do it right now.
Wow.
Otherwise, his lung is
so
gonna
it
collapse.
is like one of those things where it's like it like varies in degrees.
Yeah.
Of severity.
Yeah, there's actually degrees of it. So like they measure it with they actually like measure it like in math.
Oh.
And like my curve is like I don't remember what my curves are. I have like they would measure them.
I was horrible in
It's
geometry.
so fun. I don't remember. But like they would measure your curves, and they have like this thing called a scoliometer, and they put it on your back and stuff too. So, and I haven't gone to a doctor like that in so long. I probably should go again. Every time I go now, they're like, do you want the surgery? We'll give you the surgery. You can have it if you want.
I don't like that.
I hate that. I'm like, I don't know. Do you want it?
Yeah, like,
do you want me to
not
have
to
it?
like sound like a crazy person, but do you want my insurance money from this surgery?
Yeah.
Like, why?
No, something that is so terrifying to learn as an adult, I think, is like, I don't know. I don't trust doctors as much as I thought I did. And like, I've had experiences with doctors outside of their practice. Like, I went on a date with this guy who was in medical school, and he took the condom off when we were having sex. Yeah.
Stealth.
So it's like, so it's like, I don't, and it's not the first time like something like that has happened to me with like, and it's like, I know that was one person, but it's like, I've had situations like that on many occasions, and growing up is just learning like, oh my God, these are just other people.
Yeah. There's nothing special about
when
them.
I go to the doctor and the doctor is like, you can have surgery, I'm like,
that's another thing that it's like, I was just like, you're just like kind of indoctrinated and programmed to be like, doctors are safe. Like, you're going to go there and it's going to be safe. And then like, we've come, like, you know, you see Larry Nassar from the USA Gymnastics, you know,
oh my God.
like being like, that's a safe doctor. No, he's a monster.
USA Gymnastics coach was a deefer.
No,
I think so. The good one, the good person.
I don't know.
Whoever was a good girl, she was a deefer.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
The good guys.
Yeah, her and Lisa Frank. Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah, scoliosis doesn't. People always ask me if scoliosis hurts. It doesn't hurt.
It hurts emotionally.
It hurts emotionally. It was like, I like people. I'll show people a picture of my like.
But don't you sometimes have like back pain? You're like,
I have back. Yeah, I definitely have really bad back pain, but it's not like I feel my spine. Like, people think I feel my spine.
Right.
But it's like if I sit too long for something, like I had to quit a job a couple of years ago because I had like really awful back pain. But I've learned to manage it now. I have like little braces. I have like a normal brace I'll wear that you can like get at CVS.
Okay.
that I wear sometimes if my back hurts. I have one for my knee too.
It's so funny because like you're so not a complainer, and I know so many people.
Are
that,
you
like
serious? I'm the biggest complainer.
No, dude, I know people that would have something like that, and it would be like they'd be scoliosis girl.
Oh yeah, no, I think that might have been me in middle school.
I mean, probably.
Yeah,
you know, like of course it would be. Like,
I have to remind myself that I went through that sometimes. I'm like, oh my god, that was like a thing.
Yeah. Damn. So so I'm sure like when it comes to like what we were talking before, like needing to take breaks or whatever, it's like you have to really listen to your body because you actually have like a physical ailment that can limit you.
Yeah. So I do take it really seriously. Like that's why I went to the doctor yesterday and I thought my IUD was falling out because I'm like, I don't know. Like it might be, I don't know. Cause like I go to the doctor, they tell me I have to get like I wear a back brace. Yeah. So, you know,
damn.
Yeah. A couple of years ago, a doctor told me I could never be a server again too because of my back
Your
pain.
dream.
I know. I was like, no. And I didn't listen.
So you recently went with our friend May to a workout class.
Yeah.
How was that? Like, first two-part question. How was that? And when was the last time you had worked out before then?
Oh, good question. I think I actually worked out like a week before then. I don't normally though.
Okay.
I actually like a couple months ago I had a realization because I used to beat myself up for not using my Blink membership that I pay $20 a month for. And then a couple months ago I was like, you know what? I work at a restaurant. I'm walking all day.
Yeah, you're on your feet.
I don't
you're
need
taking
to go
in
to
more
the
steps
gym.
than I do working from home.
The thing is, I'm not like sweating. That's what somebody told me. I'm like, because I was like, how am I not losing weight? They're like, because you're not sweating.
No, I don't. I'm no doctor and I'm no fitness expert, but like, I don't think that that's the case.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Okay, so you going. I have to say, personally, something that keeps me. And everything I'm saying right now is an excuse. I'm fully aware. But something that keeps me from like working out is cost and being afraid of everybody thinking like, what are you doing here? Like you're doing so poorly. And I saw you that night after you got done with your workout class with her, and you were like glowing. You look so good. You're like,
I was wearing makeup.
So good. No, but like you're like it was great. Like so, were you like nervous going into it?
I was until May got there. Yeah,
because it was a solid core.
Yeah,
class.
I went, and I do think that I did hurt myself.
Oh, really?
That's why I think I'm not gonna. May, don't listen to this part. I think like I like pulled something like right here, not anything bad according to the doctor, but that's why I thought that's why I thought I had like a uterus problem yesterday.
Right, you just like pulled a muscle.
Did my IUD fall out because I was working out? But no, I'm fine. But yeah, but like I went in there and I was nervous. I got there and everybody's hot, and like everybody's hot, and it's all women.
Yeah,
too. It's all women, a couple men, and they're all really hot, and that. I don't know. That truly triggers something in me a little bit. Sometimes I've gotten a lot better with it because I think like once you have like enough girlfriends, you realize anybody can do whatever.
Yeah.
I'm still really scared of hot guys. When I say that, I mean like guys who work in finance. Like I see guys who work in finance at like a comedy show, and I'm like, you're not gonna pay attention to anything I say.
Yeah.
I got there and I was like kind of intimidated because there were like a lot of hot girls, and I was just like honest, and I was like, well, I'm a normal human being doing a workout class, like this is fine. And I talked to some other teacher before, and I was like, I'm nervous, like because I've never done this before, and she was like, oh, I just did it, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, but I like don't do this. Like I've never done this before and I don't work out. And she's like, okay, well, like, yeah, you can take it at your own pace. Also, like the thing that I was thinking too, I was like, what? They're going to kick me out if I don't do it?
Right.
And it's like, I was definitely like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Oh, the woman on the speakerphone is like, Claire, like you're not doing it. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
I went to a spin class one time where the instructor was very intense, and like I get what she's trying to do, but I don't really like the singular calling you out kind of thing, because here's the thing. I know people that would love that. They're like, I need that. That keeps me motivated. That keeps me going. But also it just feels not healthy, because it's like, what if that's my physical limitation? Again, maybe this is an excuse.
And it's just like the comparison thing. The
right.
like trying to be so good. Like there were a couple of things that the instructor said that I really didn't like to hear.
Like what?
One thing was like, put all your anger into this and blah blah blah. And that was on a day I had been through like some like emotional stuff, and the day before, and I had kind of just really cried it all out, and I did my like cutesy little, the way I was raised in my like almost low key grunchy granola way of like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna stay at home, I'm gonna smoke weed, I'm gonna watch TV, I'm gonna cry.
Yeah.
And I felt better. And then this woman would be like, yeah, use this energy, and I was like, oh, I already kind of like dealt with this stuff. I'm feeling pretty good. But so I was kind of like, that was scary to me, because I'm like, I was thinking more, I'm like, oh my God, I feel bad for all these people in this class that are using this as a way to deal with actual problems. Like, that's unfortunate.
Well, I think that it could, like, exercise can be a form of therapy. Yeah. Because
a combination would probably be good.
Yeah. Like, you have to be able to chill out. But some people, like type A people, like, don't have the ability to just, chill, and, they get more anxious trying to, like, just kind of chill and work through their problems in a more low impact way, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think that every time I've gotten done working out, I've always been so happy that I did it. Yeah. But it's like the getting to it where I'm like, oh, I can't. I don't wanna do this.
Being alone in that room before May got there, I was like, oh my God, like this is gonna be so embarrassing. But like it's so nice to like, just have a friend.
Yeah.
And like as soon as she was there, it made me feel good. And because I'm like, oh, I have like May wouldn't have invited me if this wasn't a place for me.
Right.
That's and that was very
I
validating.
I almost texted her being like, don't make Claire do that. But I was like, that's me projecting. Yeah, that's me, like, because I wouldn't want to go do that.
Well, I don't even I mean, it like makes sense. It was like really hard, and she was like, it's gonna be really hard. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? She offered to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I never go to these things, and it was like really cool to see. It felt like watching them, like, this is what all the hot people do. Yeah. This is so crazy.
Well, you inspired me, because I don't really work out. I do a lot of walking. Like, walking is my favorite form of exercise, and like it keeps me in a good mood and whatever. But I have been kind of craving something a little bit more intense, I guess.
Yeah.
And seeing you survive that workout class, I was like, maybe I will do ClassPass.
There was even a time where like I really tried to. Like, I was like, I'm gonna try to, because I know I could like kind of half-ass it, but I was like, I'm gonna try it. And at one point she was like, beautiful, Claire. And I was like,
that's so
hey.
nice.
And it's like, I don't know, I've really become, I used to not be as much of the person that I am now. Like, I really kind of love like this part of me that I've really grown, that I'm like, because I used to never try anything, because I was I had like really bad ADHD, and all the things I could try were like school, and I fucking couldn't concentrate. And now that I'm an adult and I've like realized my full potential in like a lot of things, like with comedy and everything, and like I'm like, oh, I'm really gonna give effort. And so it feels really good to give effort in something. And that's why I like love my job, because it's very easy, but like I put a lot of effort into it, and it has really paid off for me.
You say that your job is easy, and like I could not disagree with you more. I think that maybe if I got a serving job now with having more confidence in myself, I would like enjoy it and, think that it was easy at times. But I remember thinking that there was a time where like having to get a job as a server, like for like messing something up, like people yell at you.
Oh yeah. People have
scream
threatened
at
to
you.
Sue me. People have told me I have anger issues.
That's insane.
Which I'm like, okay, honey.
That's so insane. And like, you're so nice. I can't imagine somebody thinking that that's okay to do.
I mean, I've definitely been mean before, and to customers. I remember one time I said something really mean to a customer, because she was like, this is really weird. This is really strange. I come here every day. And I was like, well, you might recognize me.
That's not mean.
I felt mean doing it.
Yeah, no, that's not mean. Like you're like you may recognize me as like a very poignant thing to say because you are there all the time.
Yeah. It's like I work here every day, so you can't lie to me and say you come here every day.
I don't understand.
And then
people.
I never saw her again, and I hadn't seen her before. So
yeah,
but like, I think it's easy because it's the same thing. Yeah. That's what it is.
Repetitive.
Yeah, and the hard part is doing it 5,000 times in a week.
Yeah.
And the hard part, my least favorite part is waking up really early for it. That's my least favorite part. Because everything else rocks, and my restaurant rocks because I get free food, and the owners like love me, and I love them, you know, and like I have these right now I have so many awesome coworkers, and like one of my best friends at my job, like she's 23 now, and it just reminds me of when I became friends with you in May.
Yep.
And because I'm the age you were, and I think that's really cool. But yeah, no, it's easy to me because it's just like talking,
right?
And also we have now. They have these things that you put the order in on a little computer.
That crazy? I've been seeing them more and more and more everywhere. It's like, why weren't we always doing this?
It was harder like a couple years ago when I would just memorize my orders and stuff, and then like, and I didn't work at a place. I used to work at a restaurant that was like very high end, very very strict, and so like if I fuck up, like I get yelled at and like Claire, and it's like in French and it's a whole thing. But like now it's like if I fuck up, people are like, well, they're stupid for ordering eggs.
Right.
They're so, and I'm like, oh, you're so right. So I feel great there. But
awesome.
Yeah, no, like I like working hard, I realized, and I think it's just because like I really didn't like school, and so like when we went to that class, I was like, I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna really try, and I tried, and I got something out of it. The thing I don't like about workout classes in general are like then my body hurt for 6 days, and I'm like, well, I can't work out at all after this. Yeah. But the other thing I didn't like that she said was she said something about how like she's like it was about how like do you want to take a break? You can take a break, but like the only thing that makes you take a break is your brain, and just don't listen to your brain and keep going. And I'm like, whoa.
I think that works for 90% of that class, and then there's you and I, where it's like no.
Yeah, like I'm gonna. My knees are gonna buckle. This guy has never been. Yeah, this guy's never wronged me.
Yeah.
I also, but like, I mean, I have been thinking about that a couple times because like, I don't know. I really need I need to get better about like the way I eat. I think I eat really bad, and like.
Well, okay. What constitutes eating bad?
Well, I had tacos at fucking midnight last night, and and I do eat my salad. I really try to get my greens in there and stuff, but I eat late. I eat processed, fried stuff.
So, here's what I'll say. I've done a lot of. I'm not an expert. I will say that I am not an expert, but a lot of the things that we constitute as bad foods, bad habits, have are based in nothing. Yeah. So eating late at night, should you eat and then go directly to bed? Probably not, because your body needs to digest, and like it's there's something about energy, like, you know, you can get other things besides weight gain that are bad for you, that are counterintuitive when you eat late, like heartburn, things like that.
Yeah, I ate tacos next to a bottle of Tums. I literally have a bottle of Tums on my bedside.
But had you had you eaten like dinner that
no
day?
I
like
did.
that
was about yesterday I had dinner, and then I got stoned, and then I ate tacos in my bed.
This sounds like a good ass night to me.
It was a great night. I felt really good about it.
And so do you wake up with this feeling of guilt, like I can't believe I did that, I need to right my wrongs today?
A little bit, not that much. I really do try to pat myself on the back because I am like very aware of life, and I'm like, it's hard. Life's hard. There's things that come. I have very unique life. We live very unique lives. Living in New York, period.
Yeah.
But then on top of that, doing stand up.
It's so hard.
Like, it's like we have 2 full-time jobs.
Yeah.
We do a lot, and then the emotional impact of that is like so disgusting and
right.
and heavy. And it's like, yeah, I can have tacos if I want, but I will say like how relative that is to weight gain is very much in my head.
Yeah, you're thinking about it.
Yeah, but it's also I say like my concern for like my well-being is like definitely there, but like any of the changes I want to make in my diet are usually because I want to be skinnier.
It's because of like with the goal of losing weight. And that is like, it's something where I don't know if it's just because like a sign of the times, but it feels hostile to even say that because it's just, I mean, I guess, you know, part of my problem is that all of my anecdotes and talking points are things that I've gleaned from TikTok. Mm-hmm. But there's a side of TikTok that I've been seeing recently where it's like wanting to exercise or change your diet to lose weight is inherently fat phobic. And it's like, okay, I get what you're saying, but there's also like the value system we have in place for people that are heavier than those that are not. There's the
if your doctor is telling you should lose weight,
if the doctor is telling you,
like, that doesn't mean you're fat phobic.
That doesn't mean
that means you're gonna have a heart attack.
And I will say, like, something that kind of annoys me, something that does annoy me about, like, you know, bro-y guys that often are on podcasts are just like, it's just not healthy. Like, it's just not healthy to be overweight. It's all relative to the person, because if you have a genetic disposition to have like childbearing hips and like, you know, like just being on the heavier side, biologically your body, like your cholesterol will be in check, your blood pressure will be in check. It's when those things are out of whack and being overweight is a cause of those symptoms, then it's like, okay, yeah, you need to look into how to do that. And weight loss is part of it. And I wonder if there's a way to get to a healthier space of like wanting to change the way you think about dieting, where it's not just weight loss.
Yeah. I really want to what I really want to do is I want to get to a healthier space of where I'm like visualizing myself as like a healthier person that I have in my head.
Right.
Because I come on here and I'm like, I eat like crap. And it's like, I do eat meals. Yeah. I do eat lettuce. I do take vitamins. Yeah. You know?
Totally. I'm trying to, I'm going to be really annoyed because I'm going to be thinking about this conversation later and think, why didn't I say that?
I'll come back.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm afraid of people. That's why I'm asking my friends to be the first few guests, because I'm afraid of people that don't intimately know me. I think it's very normal. I think it's very normal to say, to have thoughts about like wanting to adjust the way that you eat and move for the result to be weight loss. Because even if it's not your intrinsic value system, societally,
I think it's such a big society thing. I think that has had an impact on so much of our lives and the way we view people's bodies and everything.
Yeah.
Because it's like beyond me that like someone can't be beautiful because of their weight.
Yeah. But it's what people aren't saying, because I remember, oh my God, I was watching this movie. It wasn't Dumplin'.
I love that movie.
I know. But that actress was in a different movie where she played maybe it was Dumplin'.
Oh my God, wait, I'm trying to think because I'm like, oh, I know. Wait.
I know. It's so frustrating. Let me Google it real quick. So anyways,
that actress was like the girlfriend in something that I'm thinking about right now.
I love that actress. I forget her name, but I'll put a photo of her.
Oh my God, wait, I think she was the girlfriend in New Girl at one point. I think she's Schmidt. I think she's Elizabeth.
Danielle McDonald? This girl?
Yeah, I think that was also like, I think she was Elizabeth.
So she was in this one movie, and basically like she had like a kind of will they won't they thing with her best friend that was a guy who was thinner than her. And I was watching it. I was at my parents' house, and he like, confesses that he's like, into her, and like they make out or whatever. And I sat on the couch and I was like, he would never be into her.
Yeah. No.
And my dad was like, what? And I was like, that guy would never find her attractive. And my dad goes, I find her attractive. And I felt like such a piece of shit. He didn't mean to make me feel that way, but I was just like, oh my God, I so put my own shit. I think that a guy that I think is attractive wouldn't be into me because like my body is bigger than other people's. And then I have my dad say like, okay, not to be TMI, but like I'm into a bigger body. And I'm like, oh my God, yeah, no, our bodies are beautiful to men, but it's just like,
we are told that they're not.
We're told that they're not, which is crazy.
Yeah. And like I like the amount of times, and I don't like it when people say this about me, but like people people I work with have said to me that they're like, oh, like I like girls that are bigger.
I know. Like,
I hate that.
Why does it feel so wrong?
You don't have to say it like that.
I know. Why? Like, I don't know how I want them to say it though.
I don't. Yeah. Maybe just say that you like me.
Maybe just say I'm hot.
Yeah.
Like just say I'm hot. Like I feel like when it comes to people that aren't straight size, that are mid-size, plus size, I can't even keep up with Zoomers and their categorization of things. But I don't understand why people that live in bigger bodies can't just be told that they're hot. Why does it have to be, oh, you're curvy, you're full figured? Like, why does it have to be like when you tell I guess there are, people that are deemed hot that, men or people will say that they're hot and it's like, oh, they have a tight body. I guess they do classify it in things that way, but it just feels more apparent when it's like bigger bodies.
Because when you have a crush on a guy or whatever, you would never be like, oh, and he's so thin.
No, I know, never.
Never. I'd be like, oh my God, he's so thin. Even when I like talk to girls, I'm never like, oh, she's so thin. I'm usually like, oh, she has like big boobs. Sorry, I'm a horrible person, but that's what I'll say.
Yeah.
I won't be like, oh, like she's like really thin or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's not. I just never. I don't know, but it's like I look at myself and I'm like, I don't know why people would. Like,
we're so mean to ourselves.
I know. I'm so crazy, and then it's like, and then that's what gets you into, like, I don't know. I have been on and off talking to somebody for a long time who I know has like many other people in his life, and that just makes me feel worse because I'm like, oh my God, maybe like I would be more prominent if I was skinnier.
You're comparing yourself to people that you don't even know exist.
Exactly. And like that's
so
like
sick.
And that's where like society and everything comes in, because it's like the only target that I could, like, the only thing I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, I can fix is the way my body looks.
Right.
And I had to like, and I blocked him. I unblocked. I'll block him again. But like, I mean, it's like that kind of thing. I think that's what we deal with in this body type.
Yeah, I have to say, I do that to myself, but for career comedy stuff, I'm like, I would have gotten into that comedy festival. I would be on more shows, whatever, if the crowd would have liked me more if I was skinnier. Like in my head, all of these things that are happening, the crux of the issue is because of the way that I look.
I say that to myself too. I'm like, they won't listen to me because they don't think I'm attractive.
Yeah.
And like, they're not going to care what I have to say.
Right.
And I like, in my head, I have witnessed that be true but that's in my head.
But that's
maybe
in
it's
our
like
head.
maybe I had a bad set.
I know. And then I snap myself back down to reality. I'm like, no, be funnier. Be funnier,
what
bitch.
am I thinking?
Like stop making an excuse for yourself. But it's like,
it's also like
it doesn't feel like an excuse because there's things that have proven this to be true.
Yeah, so many times, and it's just like dating proves it to be true on a regular basis. And I mean, not exactly, but like it's like the only thing I can come down to. And it's like, but it's like, I don't know. I was like really thin in high school and I still was very disappointed by the people I was dating. I was thin in college and I was still like left on red so much. And
so you're saying it's your personality.
It's totally me. It's all here. I'm just the worst. Yeah.
Are you you're on dating apps?
I am, yeah.
Are you like actively on them?
I think so right now, yeah.
Yeah.
I used to not be. Sometimes I am more than others.
Yeah.
I am right now, and what I have done, and I actually said this on stage last night, is like I have updated my pictures.
You have.
Sometimes I am like, well, because I want to be honest.
Yeah, dude.
I don't want to have a picture of me from when I was much skinnier.
Right.
I don't want to, but and I think that's probably the best idea because then it's like people are matching, and I have like good pictures of me at my current weight and stuff, and like I think that's probably like, and when people match with me, that feels good because I'm like, okay, they think that girl is pretty, and that's that girl, that I am that girl.
Right,
so
I am that girl. Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. Still, obviously, have problems with dating apps. They're like so silly, goofy,
inherently horrible.
Yeah, they're horrible. But dating period is horrible.
Yeah.
And it's like I think that this is a good way for us as like, you know, like people in our profession to like do this if we want, or like just people in New York, you know. And I used to hate the concept of dating apps. I used to be like, oh my god, nobody wants to meet in person anymore. But I'm like, whatever.
Right.
It's not like I'm not trying in person. You
yeah.
know?
Also, like our whole social lives is basically being with our colleagues.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. I'm not trying to date a comic.
I'm not trying to date any other comic.
I have a live-in boyfriend that's a comic.
Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
I don't know. I feel like I have so much to say about everything.
I know, same.
Period.
We could just keep going and going.
I know. I'm a big Spanx lover.
Oh, hell yeah.
I love Spanx.
I love Spanx.
I had a friend recently who gave me some of her unworn, brand new Spanx that she bought, and she was like, I've actually, you know what, I realized that this is just the patriarchy, blah blah blah, like society has made me feel like I need these. Skinny? We're all, you know.
Like, that sounds like a thin
and she was like, and
Spanx.
she gave it to me, and I was like, okay, slay for you, but I want them,
yeah,
so I'll take them. And I wore them, and they're painful too. Those are bad Spanx, but I think about that a lot because I'm like, she's right. It's like, you know,
right.
And it's so hard to be like find the difference of like, should I be concerned about this as like somebody who's like trying to be really public with my stuff? Like we're supposed to post all the time and stuff. Like, should I actually try to like do stuff for my appearance, or is this like an issue that doesn't need to be combated?
So you post clips of yourself doing stand up, which is admirable because I can't look at a video of myself on stage.
Oh, there is like some that I'm like, I don't know, I can't believe I posted that. Like but I was like, it got a nice bit, and
it got laughs. So,
and there is a video that I'm like debating posting, like a clip I'm debating posting, but like it is, I set the camera up in front of me, but then like somebody sat there, so somebody moved the camera, and it's completely of me from the side, and I just look like really bumpy in a way that I just don't want to look. And I know that I'm beautiful, and I know that it doesn't look bad, but it's just like I just don't like the way. I just know that I just feel that other people are going to interpret that as like bad, and I am like, I don't know if I should post something that's that like not what I want to look like, but I'm like, the joke is good. I don't know. The joke might win here. I might still post it.
Well, I'll tell you, I relate so hard. Like, oh my gosh, seeing photos of myself and being like, why is my mirror lying to me?
Oh yeah.
Like, why
group pictures? I don't look at. When people take a group picture, I'm like,
I literally don't.
I'm like, go ahead, because I'm gonna hate the way I look, and so just post it, just figure it out, because I'm not gonna. I will have you take it 60 more times.
I used to be somebody that would like get pissed at my friends for posting photos of me that I didn't like, and I'm so over that. Like, I still will not like the way that I look, but I leave them up. I don't, cause World War III just because, you posted a photo of me where I feel like my arms look too fat or whatever. I'm so overdoing that. But that was my whole MO of just like, you cannot post a bad photo of me. And like, why am I deeming it a bad photo just because I feel like I look bigger?
And the thing is, when other people see those photos, they don't think that.
I know. So when you talk about having a bit that you want to post, but like you don't like the way you look in the video, it's like, I feel you and I hear you so hard in your thinking of that way about it. And I don't want to steer you wrong, but I also, what I want to say is people are going to talk anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you were rail thin and you posted that bit, people are going to say the bit sucks.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how to win. I think it's also like just hard period as a woman, because people are just going to say whatever.
We're always going to pick apart.
Yeah.
We're always going
people
to be,
love
we're going
to
to
ruin
be
women
picked
on
apart
social media
and pick other women apart.
Yeah. And, but, I don't know. It's like, there's, I'll show you the video later, because I do want your opinion if I should post it. But like, I'm the bit's probably gonna win. I feel like half the time I'm just like, whatever. I put so much stuff out there. I say so many things. Mm-hmm. Somebody even talked to me once about like, they're like, wow, you like, that was like really crazy for you to say on stage. And I'm like, I don't
even know what you're talking about, dude. Like,
I kind of don't care.
Yeah. Like, I don't even know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I'm like so dedicated to like my work and stuff that like that usually trumps a lot of stuff. But when I have like a day off, or when I'm not like thinking about my work, I am like, why do I have so many stretch marks?
Yeah.
So it's like, it is number 2 my concerns, but
yeah. And I think that's why, like, if it's taking up brain space and you feel like it's impacting your ability to grow as a comic, like, let's just talk about that, like, as a comic, then it's like, okay, you know what? If you have the gumption to, like, sometimes I think about it, like, even thinking about making a change is the first step in making a change. I am the world's worst procrastinator. It's like, I'll have a vacation plan 6 months out, and then it's like 2 weeks before, and I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to exercise so I can lean up for that vacation. And like the 2 weeks beforehand, I'm like, working out and stuff. But like, just, if you want to start, great. If you want to start and then stop, great. If you don't want to start, and if you just like want to be in that phase of like thinking about like, I think I'm going to make a few changes, that's fine too. Too. It's all about you feeling good.
Yeah. And I think like, I don't know, I think it's important to discover like other ways of feeling good in that too. Like, I got kind of more into fashion over the past few years, because I was like, I want to figure out, like, because I'm like, okay, I don't know how quickly I can make any physical changes to myself, but I want to like what I see.
You are so talented when it comes, like, you'll walk into a room like with a very cute jacket or cute jeans, and it's like, where'd you get that? Oh, I made them myself. Like, I did this. It's like, what? That's amazing.
Yeah, I like to, if you like what you wear more, you feel better in it.
Yeah.
So, and I am like very, like, oh, I want to, like, I like changing every single thing. Even my Air Force Ones I have here, I tried to bedazzle, but they fell off.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're well over an hour, so we can wrap it up. But where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I still have Twitter. I never tweet anymore, though.
Twitter sucks now.
Yeah, it's It sucks. And at Claire Bear Pears. That's it.
Claire Bear Pears. And what's your art Instagram?
It's Subway Girl Claire.
Subway Girl Claire.
And my website is clairealexandercomedy.com.
Amazing. Well, Claire, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks. All right, bye.
Bye.